Yep, there we go. And trying to broadcast on a Wi-Fi antenna, so we will see if that's any better or more stable. And here, try to watch and listen, and getting absolutely nothing. So, especially Herbal Crone was my supporter in trying to help make this chat work even a little bit. So, order of business for tonight is to talk about the elephant in the room a little bit, which is the Father Lord's upcoming seditious conspiracy trial tomorrow. Been doing like getting involved in local politics so I can get yelled at for canvassing for a Democrat in a redneck town. And we're going to be looking at some of the first the candidate I'm stumping for, Monica Tranel, the candidate that I still kind of like, Libertarian Kyle Lamb, and then Ryan Zinke, Grease Stain from California, who is which is yet. And should we run short of content and end up with you just basking in the glow of my perfectly symmetrical facial features and Nehemiah Strong, which is a book that is being handed out around town here in Eureka, Montana, apparently. Which is I have the Vanguard edition here, and I looked at this legal disclaimer stating that by reading the disclaimer, you absolve the author of all legal responsibility for doing anything the book tells you to do, and agree to binding arbitration on the terms for information from the book transmitted to another person automatically includes that legal disclaimer, so it covers them too. And intrigued by that, I flipped through and saw that many of the pages often to InfoWars pages. So, assuming that these InfoWars articles or the Warriors Poet Society.us if the page still exists, you are expected apparently to just manually transcribe this hyperlink from the book like some sort of savage, which is a very clear mental being handed this book at the deli in a grocery store, taking out their laptop and painstakingly transcribing about from helio.com about ivermectin, among many other topics. So we might not get to this because I thought I was going to run shy of content, and it turns out we have too much. I don't have a lot to say yet because it hasn't started, and with the lack of a call-in line so far, I'm going to be just relying on catching people's live tweets when I have cell service on my break at work and my homework or go to fire department events, and trying to keep one eye on all the proceedings. But I am nervous that somehow Stewart is going to get away with it, despite what I would like to be a strong case. Like that he's in serious trouble, and I hope that Tarpley and Roger Roots end up with a more prominent role in his defense team as time goes on and they try to take real legal team, because I believe, for if nothing else, that would be the most entertaining possibility and also the one most likely to get him convicted. But I don't know. I don't know how that's going to work. I all I know is my personal knowledge of Stewart, which is that regardless of what happens, he's going to try to turn this into a circus, make it as big and public as he possibly can, and do his utmost to pad out his resume for some kind of triumphant return if he is acquitted or pardoned later on. And I believe no matter what happens, this trial is going to appeal. Finally, already been trying to set up that having a DC jury pool is so politically polarized to begin with that having a DC jury pool fair trial. Dakota predictions trademark that at some point, either in the trial itself or in the appeals process, he is going to directly quote the Declaration of Independence, being removed to places distant and uncomfortable for trial in the redress of grievances section. Large dog. And he is going to try to draw a parallel between being tried before a jury of his peers in the city where he committed the alleged crime and being removed, being a smuggler in 1760s colonial America, being in the English Isles. And he's going to try to establish those as equivalent at some point. It's going to happen because he is not physically able to pass up a chance to quote from the Declaration or relate himself to the Founding Fathers whenever he possibly can. And I have to assume the outcome that I'm rooting for. That sounds kind of crazy, lol. Yes, it does. The outcome that I'm rooting for is for Stewart and Edward Tarpley with the rival legal defense team with a separate strategy from Stewart's real lawyers that are paid for by Sidney Powell. I don't know if that's how it'll happen. That's the outcome I'm really hoping for because it would be the most fun. Is if doing legal teams and one of them is Stewart and a Montana libertarian who crawled out of a hut in the woods going off on Stewart's, I wouldn't say as crazy as sovereign citizen logic, but pretty out there. Instead of the smart choice, which is to let his real lawyers translate his beliefs into something like a coherent legal argument, resting on the little framework of logic that is insurrection. And I think probably his real lawyers are going to do their level best to do their job, even though Stewart is continuously throwing them under the bus, especially in his last-minute legal filings where he threw an absolute tantrum. I believe Sidney Powell initially paid for his two real attorneys, Linder and Bright. And I remember. And Stewart came out of nowhere with Edward Tarpley at the last from Louisiana at the last second with paralegal input from Roger Roots for that last minute filing where he attempted to replace his previous real attorneys and effectively all but accused them of malpractice in attempting to get rid of them at a stage in the trial where if they had attempted to quit, they probably wouldn't have been allowed to because of malpractice. And I just think that Stewart's he's going to continue to be angry that Linder and Bright are not centering their entire around hello to the new person. They're not centering their entire lives around his trial. I think a lot of that last filing was his own written word. All of the lines about how they have other clients taking up their time and they have vacations planned. I believe those are things that Stewart was personally angry about. And that was the portion of the filing that he himself wrote. Because I don't believe Tarpley or Roger Roots would be particularly mad about his previous attorneys having lives or other clients or personal or professional things going on outside of Stewart, but Stewart would absolutely be angry beyond reason at Stewart not being the center of the universe. Excuse me, I had to cough like a soy boy there. I've just of this trial actually starting and the moment of truth coming up where I can no longer just think in the back of my mind when the trial starts, Stewart. Now reality is here, and I have to just wait and see as the trial proceeds whether Stewart is actually going to be convicted or find a way out. More than a little nerve-wracking. Again, Stewart still has 50-50 custody of all of my minor siblings. If he is acquitted and emerges from DC victorious, he could very well have a resurgence in the militia movement and resurrect Oath Keepers once the stain of being the rumored FBI informant who lured everyone to the Capitol is washed away, is cleansed by the fire of prosecution for major federal crimes. And seditious conspiracy is a difficult charge. I've looked a lot at the history of it. I think, for one thing, in the past, there were attempts at charging people for seditious conspiracy when it was a serious reach, like charging people who had refused the draft with seditious conspiracy and trying to extend the boundaries of that to, in my personal opinion, a ridiculous extent. If anything is a seditious conspiracy, this is it. And that's the lifeline of hope that I'm clinging to, but we will see how it goes. And in less Oathkeeper-y news today, I was out knocking on doors. Campaign, who is a locally grown, non-GMO Montana Democrat running in the new congressional district that we have against Trump's highly corrupt, allegedly, be Oath Keepers hanger-on, which is about as low as you can get. And I recall, I've told this story before a couple of times, recall him showing up at Liberty Fellowship in a succession of hotel conference rooms in Kalispell, where he went to the after-service dinner, got up in front of a crowd of like militia, survivalist Christians, assorted doomsdayers, and survivalist prepper-leaning Ron Paul Republicans, and gave a speech in a little cowboy outfit that was effectively a Spirit Halloween costume of a Montanan. Oh, to deafening silence in the room because everyone in that dining room either was deeply against the war on terror in principle or expected the satanic New World Order to be within into local politics. So I'm amazed that he managed to weasel his way in. I've unfortunately been hearing from a lot of people that they're basically going to vote Republican no matter what, because Biden's going to destroy the country with electric cars. So he shouldn't have a snowball's chance in hell of winning against an actual Montana candidate. Bleeding votes away from him. But Montana has been getting more and more dumb as time goes on, as we continue to accept this continuous injection of MAGA, California and Texas transplants. Which is not to say that they're all bad, but I haven't yet had a native Montanan tell me that they know Trump is trustworthy because of their TV, and I have had that conversation with transplants. There's just kind of the snowball effect that I blame, in part, Stewart, Chuck Baldwin, and the Wesley Rawls's Free State Project and American Re Project promotion on, which is people keep hearing that Northwest Montana is the survivalist mecca, that this is God's country, or Trump-tana, or Montucky, and the more people move because of that, the greater the effect and the gravitational pull becomes. In years past, Montana very nearly went for Obama in 2008, with its measly 2 electoral college votes. So previously, Montana has been very purple, and I've been detecting a lot of Rovember anger from people that really surprised me. All over the place, including from deepest, darkest Trigo, where the escape tunnels. But I guess we'll just have to see how it goes, and I've been doing my little part, which is just going around and knocking on doors and handing out flyers in the spare time that I have after work and before homework, as many as I can do in a day while I'm in town running errands. And it's not a tremendous amount of advocacy work. I'm not going to act like I'm the center point of Monica Tranel's local campaign or the little act. I'm doing the most that I can individually so that I know that I tried and that I'm doing all that I can. Because if everybody pitches in a little bit, that matters much more than, yes, every bit helps. And 3 or 4 people dedicating their entire lives to the cause, tremendously important for a lot of things, also a recipe for burnout. I just kind of see it as the idea of treating electoralism and volunteering, or even just disaster preparedness, as one of their regular areas. Would be better off for it. Just like everything else, break it down into manageable chunks. Whatever fits into your schedule is enough. And so, before I run out at the camera and
now
start on
here's
this.
Tonight's moderator, Donna Kelly.
And good evening, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to Montana's Western District U.S. House debate, hosted by Let's meet our candidates now. Republican candidate Ryan Zinke is a 5th-generation Montanan, a 23-year veteran of the U.S. Navy.
I will say Ryan Zinke, Ryan Zinke's wife files her taxes in California.
Becoming the first Montanan to serve in the presidential cabinet in the state's history.
And I will say,
Lita have 3 children. Democratic Montana, she would become a world-class rower, competing in 2 Olympics, winning a world championship gold for the United States women's rowing team. After working her way through college and law school, Tranel would later take on Lee utility in Missoula with her husband and 3 daughters. Libertarian candidate John Lamb is also running to represent District 1. Lamb did not meet the debate participation criteria set by Montana Television Network's editorial. He understood the criteria. However, during the MTN 10 o'clock news tonight and on our website, we will have a piece featuring John Lamb. The format.
They could have just bent the rule
panelists
in this race.
The candidate will have 60 seconds to answer, followed by a 30-second rebuttal from the second candidate.
Every time I look at myself on camera, I think that I look like early Amazing Atheist from before.
Panelists can ask a follow-up or clarifying question. The candidate will then have 30 seconds to clarify their initial response. At the conclusion of this debate, each candidate will have 90 seconds for a closing statement, and a random drawing decided the order of tonight's questions, and Mr. Ryan Zinke will...
So, one thing, first off, is I personally hate Zinke. That's my personal bias. I despise the man. I detest him. I feel like I have pretty good grounds for doing that. My perception of him is effectively that he went to California to make his money, worked as a high-flying corporate executive, and then came back to Montana because he knew it would be easier to get into the salons and run for higher political office and build his resume in Montana, because you have a lower population state where a lot of people that tend to run straight ticket Republican, and he could pull from his Montana identity. Because, like, people in this town that I live in won't give you the time of day if their grandparents didn't know your grandparents. So it's not even just state-based discrimination, but county-based. If you have the wrong two and it indicates that you're from the next county over, they'll get mad if you're on hiking trails that are not well known, because that's for Lincoln County people only. So being from Montana is a huge qualifier, even though effectively, because that seems to be where the entire center of gravity of his professional life is.
Receive the first question and will make the first closing statement. And for our panelists,
oh, I didn't know I had beauty to be here for.
Bozeman. I worked in radio and television.
We're here for your brains, not your beauty.
And graduated from Bozeman Senior High.
I'm going to interpret that as a compliment. Thank you.
Bombing, and I've been with MTN since 2007 with a short stint of retirement. Also joining us is Jill Valley, a revered anchor at MTN's bureau in Missoula. News for nearly 3 decades. And finally, Jonathan Ambarian. He is a senior political reporter with MTN, based out of Helena. He has spent 6 years with the network, covering government and elections in Montana. And try to do the best that we can for this next hour for the voters, because that's why we're here. And we thank you very much for joining us. As we said, Mr. Zinke, you get the first question, and you're getting hammered on this. The federal investigations.
Yeah.
Did you didn't do anything wrong? Why did you resign?
Well, that's a good question. So I think everyone should realize what federal investigations are. Anybody can file a complaint on a federal investigation, and that investigation
I like the
by law has
diminishing, downplaying language.
I went through 18 of them, to include investigations on my socks, my dog, my car. Every investigation led to the same conclusion: no wrongdoing, no conflict of interest, no rules or laws were break. After 5 years and hundreds of thousands of dollars spent, the conclusion was Zinke did not follow the employer's manual and lacked candor. This is interesting about candor. How do you lack candor when you weren't interviewed? And oh, by the way, the same person that was a political hack that also approved Hunter Biden's travel on Air Force Two. I'm a former SEAL officer. I don't lie, but neither am I going to be intimidated or bullied by bias in the department I was trying to change.
Okay, Ms. Trinnell.
Thank you, Donna. Thank you.
I'm going to say probably in the coming years, between this guy, between Dan Crenshaw is a name I was trying to think might just have stolen Stewart's look. He's the one with the ridiculous ad campaigns where he basically plays Iron Man and plummets out of a cargo plane to smash through Antifa's car wingsuit. And Eric Prince, who I believe is dirtier than any of us can guess, and my personal suspicion is more involved in January 6th than we know. That's just unfounded. That's completely feeling on my part, so don't take it too seriously. But between all three of those, I think we're about to hit the sunset years of being a Navy SEAL, being a net positive in what I've heard personally about Ryan Zinke is that when he came up here for for the wildfire season in 2018, talking to local forestry people, he didn't understand anything. He was an idiot, and they were horrified that he was Secretary of the Interior. But that is also hearsay, so you can't sue me over it.
Thank you, John Lamb, for appearing with me in debates across the district.
Oh man, the Hunter Biden shit. I've been hearing about Hunter Biden all day.
Thank you so much for everything you're doing here tonight. With respect to Ryan's investigations, the February report from 2022 and the August report from 2022, you can find links to them on our website. Google Ryan Zinke corruption, and they're right there. Those investigations say themselves that he lied to criminals. He said right there. So I guess you're like Alice in Wonderland. You never have a day without saying at least 3 lies before 10 a.m.
No, Monica, lies seem to come from your mouth because I wasn't not interviewed on the White children's sledding park that my family runs. I have no financial interest in any other. And that investigation, I wasn't interviewed. Yet the report said lacked candor. Lacked candor, not lies. The investigation never says lie, it says lacked candor because it or did not follow the employee manual.
He's focusing a lot on the Whitefish Land deal here.
I don't lie, but I'm not going to be intimidated or bullied by
I'm a
biased
SEAL.
investigations.
Whitefish Land
same
deal.
Department I was trying to change.
Read the reports yourself.
All right, thank you. Representing a man convicted of child rape. Can you clarify what is that all about and how will you fight crime if elected?
So Ryan has been investigated, concluded lied under oath, and he interviewed and he lied about what was happening there. My representation you can find on the Montana Supreme Court's website. Go to their opinion page and put my name in and you can read the opinion yourself. Everything is right there. Under the 6th and 7th Amendments of our Constitution, we are granted affirmative rights to a jury trial, and that has been interpreted to mean effective assistance of counsel. So the claims that we brought were that the underlying trial had not been fair, and it had nothing to do with the underlying charges. It had to do with the trial itself. We claimed it wasn't fair. There was no set of circumstances where the person in question would have been released to roam the neighborhood streets free. Ryan's ad is dishonest. It's a lie. We've asked Sinclair to take it down because he's lying in his ad about me. And everybody in America is entitled to due process, even Ryan Zinke.
Well, Monica, that's not quite true. And I agree that everyone deserves. Okay,
so this is something I was not that there was a political attack based on advocacy for fair trials. Like, if you can't recognize that even the worst criminals deserve a fair trial because ensuring a fair trial protects when you need justice in the criminal system, and you could be up on false charges and have to function correctly. Like, the abuse of power always starts with an acceptable target, like a pedophile. Like, you advance the destruction of protections for everyone's civil rights by targeting people like pedophiles who are indefensible. Nobody's going to stand up and say, I'm advocating for pedophiles. Nobody does that, so it's an easy target. And that's where it starts.
But in Montana, we throw child rapists that are guilty, convicted, and it was on appeal, convicted of raping 4 small children. We throw them in jail. We don't elect lawyers who defend them and want to release them. Secondly, you say you're pro-police, but yet you're the legal counsel for 350 Montana, which advocates to defund the police. And although they deny it, excuse me, although they deny it,
well, your
you
time
can't
is
say
up,
divesting police budget is less than defunding.
So are we going to have more time? I would like us equal time here.
We will. We're watching time. We have 4 people watching clocks.
Yeah.
So the ad that Ryan Zinke has says rapists roam our neighborhood streets. So that is a flat out lie. And the first person that Ryan called when he was being investigated for lies and for being investigated for his, lying while he was at the Interior law. That is the American way. That is what we do. I absolutely support funding for law enforcement. I've done ride-alongs across this district, and Ryan Zinke actually voted against funding for law enforcement. Look at our actually worked for and the work that we've done.
Okay. Jonathan.
Mr. Zinke, we'll turn now to the issue of inflation. It's an issue, cost of living, inflation issues that are on a lot of minds.
And so that was a little bit of a question dodge. You did not address
then make ends meet.
Well, I think all Montanans have been affected by inflation. Inflation really is the factor of 2 things that are main drivers. One is energy costs, which Monica wants to destroy American oil and gas industry. Which Monica, on the record, wants 133 trillion, that's with a T, new spending. So Monica wants to kill American oil and gas industry to bring gas back down where it should be, about $2 a gallon when I was secretary. And it
was $2 a gallon in the middle of the pandemic when no one was driving.
And drive inflation up. And if you drive inflation up, interest rates come down. But the number one issue facing Montanans today is inflation, which again is...
Well, maybe the billions of dollars in billionaire tax cuts and
maybe
PPP loan forgiveness and pandemic bailouts has something to do with all the inflation.
10 points behind on inflation.
Ms. Trinnell, your rebuttal.
Thank you. I've spent the last 15 months and I've put 40,000
so
miles
the
on my
really
I live in Montana. I'm
is
raising my kids
activating
here.
pre-programmed Fox News like Pavlovian responses,
and the issue is housing,
and that's going to hit home for a lot of really stupid viewers.
The 3 candidates in this race, I'm the only.
Where's Zinke's plan?
Look at my website, monicatrinnell.com. My plan tackles inflation and the affordability crisis by saying, let's build things here. Let's invest in Montana, which I will do because I live here. And also, let's take on corporate monopolization of profits for private people. I've spent 25 years keeping money in your pocket because I've been here. I know how to do this. I've been doing it, and I'll continue to do it for money.
Yes, I am recording, and then as soon as I'm done here, I'm going to go to in just a second, as soon as Zinke is done running his mouth here.
$200,000 or less in Montana, and of course supporting the IRS agents, 87,000 of them. And Monica, the Inflation Reduction Act, your comment is awesome. So it's taking on American energy to drive energy costs up. You can't have affordable housing when inflation is running above 10%, which it is, because of the policies of the Biden administration, which you support.
So, Ms. Trinnell, let's stick with inflation here for just a moment. Both of you have done very well in life. You're very successful. Can you relate to the average Montanan who's living paycheck to paycheck and getting a bite taken out of it with inflation, and like a senior citizen who's living on fixed income?
Look, I do want to say that Ryan's only strategy in this race has been to talk about national policies and to falsely link me to national things because he doesn't live in Montana.
And so that's a little bit of, I'm going to go to intermission briefly, but that, I will say that was just a little bit of a cop-out. Where the first thing that she does after they switch over, I do agree, is immediately go on the attack. So she's leading every answer to a question with an attack, which is I feel like answering the question first and then going in with the attack as soon as it's over with might have been better. I don't, but I'm not a congressional candidate, so I don't know. And we're back. I apologize for what was, I believe, about 10 minutes of dead air. I had a dog emergency, and it took longer to take care of than I thought it would. And I don't know how to actually edit my videos, so I got a lot of constraints on my time. This is really put work as it is. And I have not yet learned how to edit my videos and take out the huge chunk of dead-ass space that's going to exist in the middle of this one. So, look at like is that all of her clapbacks are facts-based, and she keeps telling people to look at the proof for themselves in a way that will resonate with Alex Jones viewers.
This is my home. It's my only home, unlike Ryan. And because you can't talk about Montana because you don't live here, I can. And I know Montana. So I know, Donna, how this is actually impacting Montana because I've traveled this district. I've spent tens of thousands of hours talking with people. I've been here in Montana. I've been a single mom here. I had a food budget of $70 a week. And I know what it means when you have to budget your groceries, when you have to pay for time, put your money is going into Ryan Zinke's pocket. He took $460,000 from ConocoPhillips last year alone. Montana is hurting right now, and we can't afford to have purchased politicians like Ryan Zinke representing us. We need a Montanan representing us, and that's me.
You know, Monica, the snake commercial, for instance, is interesting because that snake's not native to Montana, but then again, either are you. I was born in Montana. I live. My family's been living for 4 generations. So don't tell me I'm not from Montana. You know what? I've gone around Montana too. And the things that are hurting are inflation, energy costs too much, fertilizers too much, and I don't participate in false, little tricks that you pull on this driving around looking at polls and whatever you do. I talk to real Montanans, like businesses, and that's why I'm endorsed by small businesses, because I understand it. That's why I understand
in
the
Wyoming.
issues about Montana, because I am from Montana.
You fucking idiot.
I
She
was
was
like,
born in Wyoming.
I say Powder River, Litterbuck, and there are a lot of rattlesnakes out there, and I know how to deal with a snake, Ryan. As far as inflation in Montanans, which I think the question is about, and
Did he try to say that rattlesnakes aren't fucking native to Montana? I ran into a rattlesnake outside of fucking outside of Big Arm. On the side of the highway, we're looking for a volunteer highway cleanup thing when he was pretending to be a volunteer firefighter. And he lost a pocket knife. We were out there fucking looking for it in the rain. And when the sun came out, we heard a rattling noise. There are fucking rattlesnakes in Montana. Ryan, you asshole.
we're hurting. And I've been here. I've been with you. I've been by your side. I've been working for you. I've kept $10 million in your pockets because I was there. I stood up to Northwestern when they wanted to raise your rates, and that was an all-Republican commission for the last 10 years. And I was there, and you pay less because of me. I've been there for you. I will be there for you in Congress. Thank you.
All right, thank you. This next question is to Mr. Zinke. You supported the Keystone XL pipeline. Can you explain why, and do you feel that that would just encourage a different form of dirty energy with no real energy consumers here in Montana?
Well, this is a good question because Monica posed it. I strongly support it because made in American energy, and it's all the above, but you can't dispute the fact that American made here is better under our regulation and cleaner than produced overseas. The Keystone is a critical part of infrastructure. We need hydrocarbons to make sure that the grid is stable. Monica's right. She did sue Northwestern Energy, and we're going to pay for it, and everyone's doesn't. You still need energy.
I don't think the Northwestern Energy lawsuit was about alternative energy. I think it was just that they were to increase profit. So he's conflating. He's trying to pull a fast one there. He's conflating her work to protect people from being price gouged with alternative energy and trying to wrap it all up together when it's not the same thing. Also, the Keystone XL pipeline is an export pipeline. That shit was
energy makeup should come from hydrocarbons. Again, if you
or nuclear. How about nuclear, asshole?
Better. When I was a secretary, we went from 8.3 to 12.5. We were the world's largest exporter of energy, but we did it by lowering emissions, and we had the best safety record in the history of this country. So hydrocarbons.
Or is it because it was in the middle of the fucking
energy.
pandemic, you asshole?
Of our economy and national security.
So I would actually just like to point out, Ryan, that I'm pretty good about speaking for myself. I would like you to cite the sources because everything you've said is completely unsourced and nothing that ever came out of my mouth. So with respect to the energy transition, it's happening, it's here, and I am positioned to make it work for Montana in a way that's super exciting. Beaverhead County, one of $1 billion. They have a solar project going in there that's a $500 million additional tax to that county. That's real money, and this is coming to our rural counties across Montana. We can make this work, and we can make it work for Montana.
Well, if you want to spend $10 on gasoline, I'd say vote for Monica. But the bottom line is energy drives an economy. When energy costs are down, and when I was secretary, they were about $2 a gallon, where they should be. And energy is a component of an economy. And when you have high energy costs and you have high spending, guess what happens?